Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode. This episode doesn't really have a number. Our numbered episode is 57, so consider this 57XX. This is another superannuated side quest. I'm your host, Sean Ryan, and today I'm joined by Jonathan Rivera. John, it's been a while since we've done an episode where it's just the two of us.
Yeah, we did just the Pokemon one, right? That's the only one we've done together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are we here for today, and what are we going to be talking about?
Man, we're talking about Super Nintendo music, man. I know you got your PlayStation one knocked out. I would have added a couple to the list myself, but I think SNES is kind of where some of the great music kind of started. Before that, we really didn't have the technology in gaming to really build out those great songs.
And we can always do another PlayStation music episode because that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing it. And all of you listening are probably well aware of exactly what's going on. But for that one person that randomly stumbled across this podcast, hello, and thank you for listening. We're going to be talking about some of our favorite music from both the Super Nintendo slash Super Famicom. Now, these songs may be ones that we find to be particularly amazing, or they may just be songs that hold a special place in our hearts. We're going to be alternating going back and forth, giving one of our favorite songs, and then a little history or explaining why we wanted to include it in our personal list. So, without further ado, John, why don't you kick this off? What's the first track that you have for us?
Well, are we starting with our honorable mention, or are we hopping straight into number 10?
Let's go with number 10 and then we'll do honorable mention before we do number 1.
All right, 100%. Got it. So, I mean, I went with the overworld theme for Super Mario World. It may not be just the greatest song, but if you're going to do a top 10 list for SNES, I don't think there's anything more classic than that Super Mario Overworld jingle.
It's definitely hard to beat and it's something that's so ingrained in so many people because that game came packaged with the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, 100%. I've probably put more hours into that than any other game on the Super Nintendo, and well, maybe besides one other on this list, but just I've played that game enough times that I love that little tune.
It's so good. For my top 10, I want to preface my self-imposed requirements for this list. I wanted to not only choose games that I had owned and played when I was younger and that I still currently own, so a lot of music that's on this list will probably be from games that we've already covered on the show. And I wanted to say that my taste may have changed. So if I said that X song from Y game was my favorite, it was at the time. And I'm sure a lot of my picks are going to be pretty obvious to most people, but I hope that at least one of these songs is maybe a surprise banger for you out there. But this first one is no surprise to anybody. Oh, and I also want to say these are just my top 10 in no specific order. But that song is going to be from Donkey Kong Country 2. And the game itself, it improved on the first Donkey Kong in literally every single way possible. David Wise was able to top an already amazing soundtrack in the first game, and that brings us some of the best video game music, period. Not just on the Super Nintendo, I'm talking of gaming across the board. And in that amazing soundtrack, one song stands above the rest, and that song is Sticker Brush Symphony. So, John, what is next for us on this list?
Sure. Yeah. So my next one was Sewer Surfing from Ninja Turtles 4. I think Ninja Turtles was probably one of my favorite like co-op games. Back then, like to me, like prime gaming was like two people on a couch playing a side scroller beat 'em up. Ninja Turtles 2 was amazing, but as far as music, I don't think anything gets better than Sewer Surfing from TMNT 4.
We both chose a lot of games, and we're going to be picking different songs from the same games because I absolutely have a Turtles in Time track coming
Oh
up.
boy, I love it. Yeah. And that this level is great too, man. That's the one where you're, kind of scrolling down the level, one of those classic chase levels, aliens jumping out at you and everything. It was just a very fun level to play as a kid, and the music was amazing.
So good. And I can't wait to talk about mine. But first, I'm going to talk about a different song. And it's no surprise, I also have a track from Super Mario World. So I have to go all the way back to the very first SNES game that I ever owned and my favorite track from it. And that's going to be the Fortress theme from Super Mario World. This song really made me feel like there was this intense danger on every single screen. It had these deep and foreboding sounds, and it put me in the mindset that Bowser himself was orchestrating this song as this dirge to mourn my pathetic performance as I died again and again and again in his children's fortresses.
Yeah, and I love the fact that like like it always starts up as you get to the entrance of the castle, and Yoshi, if you happen to have him at the time, cowers in fear and just refuses to go into the castle because he knows that it's more danger than he can handle.
And I almost had to go with the track titled Athletic, which is probably the most recognizable theme from the game. But when it comes to what I felt was the best track, I just had to go with the Fortress theme. It's just too good.
Yeah, it's a banger.
All right, John, so what's next?
So, little questioning on the title. Best I could look, it was called Blood Relations of. I don't know. You've got the list. What was it called? Blood Relations of Heaven and Hell. Is that what it was called?
Looking that up, I'm pretty sure that that is the title from the TurboGrafx 16 version of
Mm.
this game.
Well, mine was that version, but from the Castlevania. Was it Dracula X?
Dracula X.
Yes, I love Castlevania. I mean, I feel like all of them kind of have really good jazzy songs, and I feel like this was kind of like my one song on the list to kind of give a gimme of just a really cool little rockin' song in there. There's a couple other that are there, but more important to me. I love Castlevania, not particularly this game, but this one's like a really just good example of one of those uh, fun little rocking SNES songs.
Rondo of Blood, which is the game that came out on TurboGrafx 16, it received a, it's not inaccurate to call it a port. It's more a reimagining of the game and kind of a dumbed down version on the Super Nintendo Dracula X. And in fact, that game is very, very hard to obtain nowadays, very pricey, but it's still a fun title. And Castlevania itself is just so, so good. It's hard not to have one of those songs in here.
100%. I'm huge fan of Symphony of the Night and just the Castlevania series in general. Love that they like constantly cross over into a lot of like the games that have come out today. It's yeah, it's one of my favorite series for sure.
It's so good. And talking about one of my favorite series, that's going to be The Legend of Zelda, specifically A Link to the Past. This is the game that I attribute to be the reason that I'm a lifelong gamer. The game is simply incredible. It was one of the first games that we covered on the show, and I would actually like to go back and redo that episode now that like 3 years have passed and I've really gotten a speed running for the game, but that's kind of besides the point.
Yeah, you're pretty obsessed with it, man. You told me some crazy stories that you run through that game like once or twice a day, don't you?
At least once a day, if not every other day. I've been really busy, so I haven't had the chance, but yeah, I play it almost every single day from start to finish in the randomizer setting. So it's going to be a little faster, or typically it's a little faster than it is to play the base game because you don't have to necessarily complete everything, which is
Sure. You get an item that can kind of skip ahead.
there's so many variants in the randomizer that's out there. And the most important thing is that all you have to do is defeat Ganon. All that's required is to obtain the 7 crystals that the maidens are trapped in, and then open up Ganon's tower, defeat Aghanim 2, and then defeat Ganon in his pig boss form.
Oh yeah, just that. That's it. Just a little walk in the park.
Well, that means that sometimes you don't necessarily even have to touch any of the pendant dungeons. Where in the base game, you have to get the pendant of wisdom, power, and courage before you can draw the Master Sword. But if you're lucky, you might draw the Master Sword in one of the very first chests.
This is something to say for the remaster of the Link to the Past
Oh, for sure.
podcast, man, because I'm sure you can go on for an hour. I love Link to the Past is great. I love the new Zeldas. I was not into it as a kid, but man, I mean, I know that Link to the Past is fun. I play it on emulators every once in a while, but I was not a player of it back then. But yeah, it's great, man.
I love it. I love it. And for me, the moment that this game really solidified itself as one of the most amazing moments of my life was that moment where you draw the Master Sword. You've completed 3 dungeons, and in my head, the game was over after that. I thought that I was going to do those dungeons, draw the Master Sword, and that was going to be it. but instead you have to defeat Aghanim, and then you're transported to this dark realm, the Dark Golden Land, or the Dark World, as it's called. And you have so many more dungeons to complete. You have 7 more dungeons plus Ganon's Tower. The game just literally explodes in content. And fortunately for the player, you're going to be spending a lot of time in the Dark World. So, my favorite track is none other than the Dark World theme. This song, it's so good. It has this almost militaristic march to it while portraying to the player that this is essentially Ganon's theme. He has won. He has pulled you into this twisted version of Hyrule, and there's no hope. Of course, you as Link, you're there to save the day, but this music just tells you that you will not. You will fail.
All right, you convinced me, man. I'm gonna have to boot it back up and run through it again.
It's worth it. It is so fun, and I would also recommend you try out the randomizer if you ever get the chance.
Sounds like a plan.
So what's our next song gonna be?
So I went with the Zombies Ate My Neighbor's boss theme. I think this game is so fun, and I thought this piece of music was really good because to me it kind of feels different than almost any music. It almost has this weird like horror theme. I mean, the game is like a horror game, even though you are playing as little kids with, water guns and weird weapons. But that creepy sound whenever the bosses come out, I love this theme. It's awesome.
I only rented Zombies Ate My Neighbor once or twice back in the day, but from what I do remember, everyone hated the music. It was just so not grating, but it feels like the music was designed in such a way that it was supposed to set you on edge. And I think that the people in my household really kind of felt that back in the day.
Oh man, that's crazy, man. I mean, I can agree that it's supposed to create like tenseness, I can see that. But man, I love Zombies Ate My Neighbor. It's super hard,
Oh, for
but
sure.
it's so like colorful. The maps are so fun. It's like got really cool level names. It's huge. There's like 50 levels in it. Man, it is such a fun game.
I definitely enjoy it now as an adult, but back in the day, it was just, I don't know, it was too hard and the music just wasn't right for me then, but I do enjoy it now. For my next song, it's no coincidence that most of the games are on this list of ones that we've covered on the show. We played a lot of those games because I own them, I played them, I love them. This game is no exception. It's the one, the only Castlevania 4. I really struggled with which song was my absolute favorite. And it wasn't until actually about an hour or so before we sat down and started recording today that I finally made the decision. My favorite song from Castlevania 4 is Bloody Tears.
I don't know if I know which one Castlevania 4 is. Was it just called Castlevania, or is that Super Castlevania? There's so many of them.
It's Super Castlevania 4,
Yeah.
which the game is more or less a glorified tech demo for the Super Nintendo. They had so many elements that were new to the system, like showing off their new Mode 7 and the massive sprites that you have. Simon Belmont is huge. He's just this massive character in the game. And at this time, the whip only went out in that, singular direction. But here the whip can now travel in so many different directions and you can even spin it in a circle.
That omnidirectional style.
Yeah, it was just amazing. It was so, so good.
Yeah, man. I don't know if I played that one.
You definitely should play it. You absolutely should. It's so good. It's hard, but once you kind of get the pattern down, it's a very manageable game. I can walk through this in it's been a while, so I'd probably take at least 45 minutes, but sometimes I could hit this at around the 40-minute mark. I can go pretty fast.
Yeah, yeah. I'll have to load that one up, man. Most of my Castlevanias is PS1 on. But I love them, man. They're so fun. Kind of like Zombies Ate My Neighbors again. Like there's so much enemy variety. I love that
Yeah.
there's just so many different types of enemies that all attack differently, and it's great, man. I mean, I love the Castlevania games.
And one great thing about the Castlevania games, and I had this struggle while I was picking out this song, is that so many of these songs are constantly remade and remastered and revised. And I chose Bloody Tears, but Vampire Killer is another reoccurring song that just kind of gets better and better as the years go on. But I had to pick Bloody Tears for this one.
Yeah, for sure. I always notice, man, you're like totally it's a really always important to you to keep it traditional. I mean, you're a big physical media guy. You collect all the consoles, everything you can. So I know whenever I was suggesting some of the tracks, you were all about finding the right file, the original file, not a remastered one. You kind of wanted that one that came right off the cartridge. So I get what you're saying, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, John, tell me, what is track number 5?
All right. Well, I went with Final Fantasy's Terra's theme. think if you're anybody who's familiar with gaming music, especially if you're like looking up top 10 lists of SNES songs, Terra, Tina, whichever version you want to call it, that theme is almost always on that list. This is from Final Fantasy 3, 6, depending on like the numbering.
Mhm.
It has this really, I don't know, it's some kind of like Japanese flute sounding instrument. Kind of reminds me of Kill Bill. Really beautiful, and man, I feel like this is like the perfect time to kind of talk about uh, Nobuo, was it Nobuo Uematsu? Is that how he's pronounced it? Nobuo Uematsu? He's the guy who does like all the Final Fantasy music, and he's kind of known as like the Mozart of gaming. Like he's like really big into like these beautiful mythical orchestral songs, and he really just kind of kills it in this game.
And this is one of those tracks that I think is just as beautiful in its video game form as it is in the orchestral one as well.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's amazing. Like, I think the main reason I even just love the fact that we went with SNES is because there were a lot of limitations. I mean, it was a big deal back then because of the fact that before then you were looking at NES, and they managed to do some neat stuff with NES, but this really kind of opened up things. But I mean, compared to nowadays where you can really just, I mean, you look at a song like a Halo or a Skyrim, and you've got like choirs and full orchestras, and they're recording at like high quality. I mean, they have all the budget and fanfare and tools, but with such limitations to still pull off these like really beautiful songs, like he was amazing. I mean, he did the Final Fantasies. He's worked on Chrono Trigger. He's done a lot of really good things with the limitations of the system.
That is such a great way of explaining it, and I could not have said it better myself. There were so many limitations that just kind of haunted these composers, but as time has progressed, those limitations have kind of fallen to the wayside, almost to the detriment, I think.
Yeah,
Like you're saying, they have this unlimited budget, but before they had to really kind of dive deep into the hardware of the machines to pull the music that they had in their hearts that they wanted to put into these games.
yeah, man, it's really good. It reminds me, it makes me think of just this, just in this entire way of thought. There's this band, and I'm blanking on the name. I'll have to look it up. That only does like chip tune music, like completely new music, using pretty much all the limitations of like what was on like an NES, like an old school NES. And they still manage to produce some really good music. But it's challenging when you're only limited to a certain amount of sounds you can possibly make. But yeah, for sure.
Are you talking about people that do covers
No, like
of older?
completely original music. In fact, if you've ever played the new Scott Pilgrim game, and I say new like as in like the last 10 years, the one that's like a
The
side
beat 'em
scroll,
up,
yes.
Scott Pilgrim versus the
Yes,
World.
the people who did that music,
And that was such a good game, and that soundtrack was phenomenal as well.
uh, the ones who did that music, I believe they do a whole bunch of their own music that's all chip tunes style music, like with those limitations. I just looked it up. Anna Monoguchi, man. I mean, I've heard a bunch of their stuff, really cool stuff. But that idea of just working within your limitations as opposed to like using everything you can in this huge budgets is really, really neat stuff. And I kind of feel like this is another perfect example of like how you can build really great music even within that system.
Speaking of limitations, if you were not Nintendo themselves, you probably were struggling a little bit when it came to how to best get that sound out of this new box. And this next song is probably not on a single Souls best of or even top 1000 tracks on the SNES. But to me, this song holds a lot of fond memories. My parents didn't have a lot of money, so being thrifty was a necessity, and I normally just rented games. You know how it is. At that time in our lives, we didn't have a ton of games, and you played the hell out of the ones that you did have. While we were at a garage sale, this game was being sold for I think like $20 or something. It was complete in box, something cheap, but even 20 bucks mattered then. And I saw it on the table and I asked my parents to get it and they said no. And we quickly left the garage sale. And I'm young. I clearly wasn't putting two and two together at the time, but we arrived at another garage sale. And for anyone listening, it was common that a community would literally schedule a day to have garage sales together. So that's why we were going from one straight to the other, straight to another. But it was at that one that we arrived, and my father just got in the car and left and came back not too shortly afterwards. And this is like summertime, I think. And of course, I had forgotten about the game by then, but my birthday rolls around in December. And one of the gifts had that familiar rectangular Super Nintendo look to it. I opened it up and bam, Gradius 3.
Oh, I didn't even on your list, man. I loved Gradius. I didn't even consider this I mean, are you implying that you considered like a not a popular one? Like it was because I don't know how well it did on the charts. I didn't track that kind of stuff, but I do remember Gradius and really loving those games
Well, I'm not very familiar with the Gradius franchise. I played the absolute hell out of this game, and it was that first level song that I heard a lot of.
for sure.
That track's name is Departure for Space, and while it's not terribly amazing, it's very upbeat, it's very catchy, and it just kind of puts you into a mood to start blasting at spaceships. And I know that Konami themselves did some amazing work in their various soundtracks and their various games, but this is still a very early on game, and I don't think that they had fully kind of figured things out. If you've ever played Gradius 3 on the Super Nintendo, the game suffers tremendously from slowdown.
Yeah,
It gets bad.
a lot of things happening at once in that game. Just couldn't handle it, huh?
It could not handle it, and in fact, for some of the speedrunners, they incorporate the lag, the intentional lag in the game to beat some of those bosses because it just becomes this absolute bullet hell, and there's virtually no way to get through it unless you're really, really good at the game. And I was not.
God, I love speedrunners, man. I love that they do that kind of stuff.
All right, John, what's your next song for us?
Sure. So when I played Super Nintendo, one of the ones I remember games I remember most was Earthworm Jim. I don't know. Are you familiar? I mean, I know you're familiar with it for sure, but did you play it? Were you a fan?
I played it on the Sega Genesis. I never
Okay.
really played it on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah. I played it on the Super Nintendo. I played it on the Sega. I played all of them. I just remember at the time thinking it was such a cool game because it's very like avant-garde weird stuff. I mean, one of the boss fights is like a joke boss fight where it's like a fish in a fish bowl that you just swallow.
Mhm.
There's a level where you play as like this. I don't even know what I think they call it a blind worm, but it's almost like a fetus while Beethoven music plays in the background. There's a quiz show part of the way into it. And it's just such silly nonsense. And just the fact that you're also a worm in a suit that you literally use your own head as a weapon. Everything about that game, loved it. And in, I believe it's Earthworm Jim 2, the opening level starts with anything but tangerines. Even the song titles were silly. And it was just this really fun jazzy music to open the game with. It just starts in like really heavy. Love that game. Can't say nothing better. And I think this is just a really great track from the SNES.
My memories of Earthworm Jim 2 are basically limited to I think it was the first game on Sega Genesis where you launch a cow
Yeah,
and you do something, it's just like cow launched across the screen. And I was like,
yeah,
what am I playing?
at every level in between, it was a close up of a cow that would say, "Well done." It was just such an odd game.
It reminds me of Ren and Stimpy. It has that same aesthetic in
Sure,
my head and that just kind of crazy off the wall. You do not know where this is going
100%. Yeah.
kind of feel to
And
it.
then the music is so weird because some of it's like completely original, and then there's like I said, they had a lot of like Beethoven in it. There's that one level that I really love. It's like almost like a mini game where the bad guy is throwing little puppies out of a window, and you have to use like a trampoline to bounce the puppies to safety, all the while playing that little Italian pizzeria jingle. That's kind of sounds like it's probably something out of royalty free music, but it's really music is very much tied into the charm of the game.
Absolutely. For my song, we both had this song on our list. So when we compared our choices, I was glad to see this song and another one on your list because it meant that I was going to get to hear both, talk about both, and we would each be able to pick another song to add to our list. That first track in Star Fox is powerful. It's got this heart pounding, blood pumping rhythm to it that, alongside this revolutionary 3D technology on the Super Nintendo, it permanently etched the memory of that first time you flew over Corneria in your R Wing.
Yeah, I love Star Fox. It's really cool. And yeah, I mean, I remember it was like really considered, just like you said, cutting edge technology. Now, didn't and I could be wrong on this. I'm pretty sure that Super Nintendo, because of the cartridges, allowed them to put like special technology in some of the chips, and this one used like a special chip added onto it that actually did
Yes,
some of the processing because it was kind of unique to this game, right?
correct. It's the Super FX chip,
Hmm.
and it's only used in a handful of games. And in fact, there was the Super FX2
That
that
was in Yoshi's
did
Island,
even
right?
fewer games. It was in Yoshi's Island, I believe, and the Doom game
Mhm.
or the Doom port for Super Nintendo.
Yeah, that's why I've always heard that Yoshi's Island is probably one of the hardest games to port or regular rather emulate because it kind of had a unique system. But that's really cool. But yeah, I love Star Fox. It's classic. It's become a meme. Do a barrel roll, and yeah, this song's great. It was going to be on my list, but you snatched it from my hands.
One of us had to talk about it, and that just meant that you got another song to put on. So, what was that song that you replaced?
So mine for this one, I went with Mega Man X, specifically the Sparked Mandrill level theme. great game. Love it. Love Mega Man. Mega Man X was amazing. Uh, Zero, such a great character. And then on top of it, the music is all kind of just fun. This is kind of like what I talked about with Castlevania, just like kind of rockin', fast-paced energy music. And then on top of that, Mega Man X, you can do a Hadouken. One of the best like Easter eggs in video games with like a real application. So great.
And for speedrunning purposes, I think I remember listening to somebody talk about this, that the optimal route is actually to get that special power.
To get the Hadouken,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised because it probably makes bosses cake. You know what I mean? Like it's really strong.
So I'm going to offer a dissenting opinion here because I have very strong feelings about Mega Man.
Oh no.
Mega Man X, it's a good game. I like it. I've played it. I enjoy it. But to me, Mega Man 4 was the beginning of the charge shot. That's where the charge shot was introduced. And I feel that that was the beginning of the end for Mega Man. I
I
do
remember
not
you
like the
talking
charge
about
shot.
this. I
Yes.
remember you talking about this, how you felt like it ruined the speed and momentum of the game because charging it was more effective than shooting. I I can see what you're saying. I can see how I would say it didn't destroy the game. It just evolved the game because at that point, uh, it's just implementing new features. I don't think it breaks away, but I definitely see how, especially you, who's kind of a fan of classic nostalgia, like we talked about before, uh, feeling like you're in some way taking away from that sanctity of like what a Mega Man game is.
To me, it ruined the balance of the game because now every enemy is designed around that charge shot. No longer is it like the Mega Man 1, 2, and 3, where so many of these enemies would die from just one pellet from your Mega Blaster, or, 2 or 3. Now you essentially have to charge up as you're moving through the level. And it just is so distracting to hear that.
Sure.
And
But
I
here's
don't
what I'll
want
give
that.
you. I understand the charge shot's good for most enemies, but you gotta also remember all the things that are little simple one-hit enemies that are fast. So when you're moving and then all of a sudden something darts out or something that's coming down and you can quickly turn around and zap it, I think that's kind of where you get a nice mix of them. But I know what you mean. I'm not gonna take away from your opinion, but I still think Mega Man X is great. Not to say that it's the best. Love Mega Man on the SNES. Love the old ones. Mega Man 2 is probably one of my favorites on the NES. But yeah, I love the Mega Man games. I think they're great.
I actually recently just got my hands on a complete in-box Mega Man 2 and Mega Man 6? 5 or 6. I'm missing one of the original NES Mega Mans, and, it's sitting at one of my local game shops. I stare at it every time I go. I'm just really hesitant to put down another, like, $300 on a game
Oof.
that's just gonna sit on my shelf,
All for rock and roll, huh?
all for rock and roll. So moving on, my next song is that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Turtles in Time track. When I talk about Ninja Turtles, it's something from my childhood that is like mental comfort food. I still love the Turtles to this day, and I managed to get my hands on one of those arcade one up TMNT cabs that
Mm.
has the original arcade games and the sequel Turtles in Time. So, not including a track from this game was impossible. Equally as impossible was trying to decide on which track to include in this list. It was a toss up between Big Apple 3 AM and Alley Cat Blues. And
Sure.
Alley Cat Blues took the deal.
yeah, I mean, the TMNT, man, I don't think Turtles in Time is the best song, but as far as music, I mean, they've got it.
Such an amazing game, such an amazing soundtrack, and just something that I can just go back and play anytime. And now that I have this little cab literally within arm's reach of me right here from my desk, I will just take a break from school, stand up, play 1 or 2 levels from the game, and then just go back to whatever I'm doing, and I love that. I love that I can just pop in and play and have that pseudo arcade feel to it. All right, John, we're getting closer and closer to the end of our list, so what is next for you?
Sure. So with this one, man, honestly, when you first gave me the list, we talked about doing an honorable mention, right? So in other words, a song that we just wanted to bring it up. It's maybe not going to be one of our favorite songs, and I was going to go with Guile's theme. As the honorable mention because it is kind of become a joke, kind of in the same vein of some of the other things we talked about. It's become a meme. There's this whole thing online with everything goes with Guile's theme. There's YouTube
Everything
videos of
goes to Giles theme.
yeah, there's a bunch of TV shows and movies where they apply it and the idea is that it adds emphasis. And when I went back and listened to it when I was making the list, I had to like say, you know what? Even though it's kind of a joke song now, it still stands on its own as like just a solid song and probably even the best character song in Street Fighter 2. I mean, I'm a fan of Ryu's theme, but Guile's theme is awesome. I mean, like
Iconic.
it's so good. And Guile is just like a hilariously cheesy character. I mean, who has two American flags tattooed to his arms? Fantastic.
Originally, I didn't have any Chrono Trigger songs on here, so this game is kinda cheating and kind of breaks the rules I'd set myself, but I just had to include it. I never owned the cart myself when I was younger, though I did rent it, I think once, maybe twice, but it wasn't until I started getting into emulation that I really sunk my teeth into this game, and let's face it, Frog is the coolest character in the game, hands down, and this theme, it's so good.
Frog's theme was originally on my list, and we both kind of were like, we'll give one up song to the other person. Man, I think it's so good. And then, like you said, because he's such a good character, you know, he has this whole redemption arc of being this person who couldn't save his friend due to his own cowardice and is stained with his failure, carrying around a hero's badge that he doesn't deserve. And that we bring this character from that point to like redeeming himself to the point where he finally deserves this badge that he's kind of been tarnished with. And like building up to that moment when he takes that sword, he takes this Masamune sword and cuts this mountain in half or opens it up. Once he's kind of like finally believed in himself and accepted like his responsibility, it's so good. The theme is played throughout. I can't say anything but great things about Chrono Trigger. It is phenomenal. I think it's one of those games that although it's old and retro, you can completely pick up today. It doesn't age. The system works well. The storyline is an amazing use of time. I can't, like I said, I can't say anything, but I'm trying to convince your buddy Chris to hop on and play this game for one of the episodes. It's a commitment, but it's worth it. I play it like every
It
3
is
years.
absolutely a
It's
commitment.
every 3 years I probably pick up and run through this game. Totally worth playing.
And with that, I know how much you love Chrono Trigger. So when you sent me your revised list and this song was mysteriously absent from it, I was confused but glad because I was still looking for another song to throw in my list. But why did you take away any Chrono Trigger song?
Well, I did put a Chrono Trigger song, yeah, on my list, but when
Oh, you
I
did.
did,
You did.
yeah.
Yes.
So, spoiler alert, guys. My number one song is a Chrono Trigger song. But when I went back and I'm listening to the songs, and I literally wrote down all my songs on individual index cards, and I was taking them and moving them left and right.
Oh, that's amazing.
And every time I did it, I was like, I love this song and I love this game. And I do. I love Frog's theme. But when I was listening to them side by side, some of these other songs just sounded better, but it's part of a better piece of work. So I felt like if I was going to put Chrono Trigger's number one, I wanted a song that at least stood on its own is just a really good piece of music, which I don't think that this isn't an example of that, but it was just a way to like say, let me put a number one song that I think ends the list really well as far as like just great music production. But Chrono Trigger overall, there's so many great songs. Corridors of Time is great. And of course, Frog's theme. I mean, like I said, I can't say anything better about it. I think the composer was a guy named Yasunori Mitsuda. He was pretty amateur at the time, but he killed it on the song. There's just so much good music on it. By far, Chrono Trigger is the best gaming music of the SNES. Maybe of
Ooh.
I know you're gonna put Legend of Zelda or something probably, but Chrono Trigger's number one for me.
Yeah. Well, for me, I had everything just kind of jumbled up. I had no real specific order, but it's good. It's great. It's amazing,
You're gonna speak
but it
blasphemy.
can't be number one
You
for
can't.
me.
You're speaking blasphemy.
Well, what's next on your list?
So my number two kind of ties into your number 10. I love Donkey Kong Country. Man, there is nothing wrong with what is it? Bruckleberry Brush.
Sticker Bush Symphony.
There you go. That thing. I couldn't remember what it was. But man, Aquatic Ambience is such a great song. Man, you mentioned him before, David Wise. I mean, he did a lot of the rare music, Battletoads, everything like that. It's probably one of the few American composers out of these songs because so many of the great music is done in Japan. But David Wise did some really great stuff. And Aquatic Ambience, man, just a great song for these water levels. In the video game world, I think it's kind of a cliche that water levels usually suck.
For
I mean,
sure.
like, the water temple in Zelda is notorious, and for you to have this level that you don't feel bad about, and when you come in, it's just kind of a perfect little break. It's great, soft music. It's one of those songs you can just kind of put on and relax to. I've seen it on lots of people's playlists. I love Aquatic Ambience.
It's such a good track that you can really put it to just a relaxing day at home even. It doesn't necessarily feel like video game music. I put it on for studying.
Sure, it's great, man. I mean,
So
those
good.
so good. Yeah, I love. Rare has a lot of great music, but this one's it for me.
Well, I've got another game that isn't going to make its way to anybody's top 10 list, and that game is Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. I don't know who got this game for me when I was younger or why they got it for me. I certainly didn't ask for it. But one day it showed up, and with my very limited library, I played it a lot. The story is very rudimentary. The combat is bland. The sprite work is on its way to bad. Even when compared to the standards of its time, it's just not that great. It's honestly a very meh game, and it's more or
Hmm.
less baby's first RPG. It's very simplistic, it's very easy, but one thing it has going for it is the battle theme. And with monsters visible on the map, there's no random encounters. So it's very easy to engage. And I got to hear it whenever I liked. And I definitely chose to tackle more enemies just so I could listen to this great track over and over again.
I'm not sure if I even know it. I didn't listen to each song on your list. Is it reminiscent of the battle themes of current times?
No,
Completely different.
I haven't really played many of the more recent Final Fantasy games, but
Hmm.
to me, the last Final Fantasy games that I was really into was 10.
7, 8, 9, 10. Okay.
Yeah, I really enjoyed 10. I felt that 10 really kind of brought it back to that 7, 8, 9.
Sure. I
But
love 10.
I just don't like modern Final Fantasy. It's not for
Hmm.
me. I've
I get you. I
tried
get you.
to play which one is it that they're driving? 15?
16 is the newest um, main numbered release. Lately, my son and I have been working on 7 Rebirth, which is like this completely souped up version of the Final Fantasy 7 original game with like an alternate reality. It's pretty solid. The gameplay is awesome, but it's definitely not gameplay wise anything like the original. But yeah, I do like to do Final Fantasies.
I did buy the Final Fantasy 7 remake for PlayStation 4. I think I bought the collector's edition.
Hmm.
I tried it. I could not get into it. It wasn't for me. I want my I don't want real time what's it called? Real
Yeah, I mean, real time versus
active
turn
time
based. Yeah,
combat?
active time combat.
Yeah.
You want turn based.
Yeah, I want my turn
Sure.
based. Yes. I want my old school turn-based combat. That's how I want to play these games, and it just was not for me.
I don't know, man. I love it. They're pretty good. I mean, I agree. They don't hold up to. They don't even feel like the same type of game. But they're still solid. I can appreciate the new stuff and the old stuff, man.
Well, John, before we get to our last song on our list, we did come up with some honorable mentions. You talked about Guile's theme was originally going to be one of those. What did you want to pick for your honorable mention on the Super Nintendo?
Yeah, this one I love just because of the history behind it. It's really simple. I believe it's like a little 8 bar, 19 notes. It's referred to, it's not even an official song. I mean, it kind of has become one. It's called Totaka's Song. There was a music producer within the Nintendo who worked on so many of the games that you know. I mean, like we're talking almost any Mario game, Zelda games, all kinds of stuff. And he hid this little jingle in pretty much every game that he's ever produced. And if it hasn't, it's believed he probably did, and we just haven't figured it out yet. But I think it's really just a cool piece of lore. I think we can do a whole episode on appearances of Totaka's song. But yeah, just thought I'd throw that little jingle in there so you'll hear what it sounds like, and maybe you can look out for it in your next Nintendo gaming session.
And what's interesting about this is that Kazumi Totaka, he only put it in one song on the Super Nintendo, and that's in Mario Paint. And that's triggered by clicking the O in the word Mario on the Mario Paint title screen.
Really, I didn't know that that was the only um, SNES song that I had it. That's pretty interesting. I mean, I know it's in so many different ones. That's really surprising that it doesn't appear in anything else.
Well, like you said, maybe we just don't know about it.
Sure.
Maybe there's still some hidden gem out there where Totaka has kept it hidden from all of us for decades.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Before I go to my number one, I even almost picked this over Sticker Brush Symphony in terms of pure excellence, since it was so difficult to decide between the two. But it's another Donkey Kong title, and that's Minecart Melancholy. I almost picked a different honorable mention, and that was going to be Simon's theme from Castlevania 4.
Hmm.
John, I'm telling you, you got to just play Castlevania
I
4.
do.
It's
I
so
missed out.
good.
Like I said, I didn't pick up Castlevania until PS1 and then kind of went back and played a lot of the old ones. So my
Mhm.
Castlevania knowledge kind of starts there, but I just love the entire genre and style. So I will have to pick up Super Castlevania 4. Have you done an episode on that one yet?
We did. We did do an episode on Super Castlevania 4, I think like 3 years ago now. So it's definitely an older
See,
episode.
you should have invited me into that episode. That way I would have
Mm.
had the experience, man. You're leaving me out of the good stuff. You're out here. I mean, no, you've brought me to Metal Gear, you brought me to Pokemon, and you brought me to the music. So there's some great stuff, but I could have had that chance to run through it at that time.
Well, I definitely want to play through Castlevania 1 for our Halloween episode this year. I haven't
Mm.
talked to Chris and Corey about that yet, but I want to play Castlevania 1 for our Halloween episode. So maybe you can join us there. Did you ever buy the compilations that came out in this last generation of
I own
consoles?
one. I own the one that is Symphony of the Night and is it Rondo of Blood?
Yes, and that was exclusive to PlayStation. It's not available on the um Nintendo eShop at all, which I think is a crime. I would love to have all of this Castlevania under one roof,
Sure.
but
No, Symphony of the Night. I love Symphony of the Night. That's where I fell in love with the Castlevania series. So
all right, so we're down to our last song. John, what did you pick for your number one song on the Super Nintendo?
I think I have exhausted my obsession with Chrono Trigger. So of course Chrono Trigger is number one. As I've said, it's a phenomenal game. It's got amazing storytelling, these beautiful cinematic levels that that really push storytelling for its time. You know, me being a Metal Gear fan, anytime you can create like a really good story within a game, a cinematic within the game is always kind of like up there for me. I went with Chrono Trigger. I don't even know if it's pronounced right. Shala's or Scala's theme. It's to me one of the better just pieces of music on there on top of other ones. But that's if I had to choose one, that's where I went with it. It was kind of hard. It was like picking your favorite kid, picking your favorite anything. It was hard, but that's what I went with. But really, this is more just of a celebration of Chrono Trigger as a whole.
Well said, well said. And I can't make that call when it comes to picking my favorite. That's why I just kind of jumbled up this top 10. It was hard enough picking these 10, but there was no way I could rank them. But for my last pick, I really had to dig deep for songs that were tied to some core memories that just really spoke to me because of the mood that they invoke. And when it comes to music that invokes a mood, very few games do this as well as F-Zero. What mood is driving around a floating car in a futuristic setting? I don't know, but this track particularly amped me up and just I felt like I was there. I felt like I was really piloting a hover car, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I've never played it, but what I do know about F-Zero is it was good enough to build an entire made up character for a Super Smash Brothers for it.
Oh, absolutely. And I love Captain Falcon when it comes to the first Smash Brothers on Nintendo 64. He is my favorite character to play as in that game. And I'm not a huge fan of racing games, but F-Zero is one that I actually really like. I even own F-Zero GX on the GameCube, which I love despite being absolutely terrible at.
Man, you're naming a bunch of ones that I'm gonna have to go back and start playing, man. I don't even I'm not even familiar with which song it is. I'll have to listen to it.
Well, the song that I chose was Mute City. this track is so, so good. And I was torn again. It feels like every game that I picked on here, I was at the one or two songs I was like, okay, I'm torn between this masterpiece and this
Sure.
masterpiece. And the other track that I think is phenomenal is called Big Blue. It's so, so good, but I just had to give it to Mute City.
Yeah, I kind of felt bad at the end of this list because, I put in a lot of songs that were because of the association or the game. Like if I were to go purely on musical composition and just beautiful music, would Castlevania be on the list? Probably not. Would Mario World be on the I mean, probably not. They'd probably be a bunch of Japanese RPGs. They'd be Secret of Mana and different things like that in
For
Final
sure, for
Fantasy. But if
sure.
I'm going to build a list that ties to my experience, uh, these are where it's at, where I'm kind of hitting on each game and how its music really kind of like tied into that game.
Absolutely. I did exactly the same thing. And there's really no other way to do it because this is a podcast about remembering the feelings, the nostalgia that we have tied to all these classic games. It only makes sense that we not only picked songs that were aesthetically beautiful, but that also had some deeper meaning.
Yep. Yeah, no, this was definitely a fun one to build. I don't know how fun it'll be to listen to, but as far as the actual homework required to get in there and kind of flash back to all these gaming experiences really was a blast and I liked it a lot, man. I do think maybe we can do a PS1 one. Maybe I'll have to throw a couple of my other ones. Try not to do just a list of Metal Gear music.
Yeah, we could definitely do that. And with that, we're going to bring this episode to a close. John, thank you so, so much for taking the time to put this list together and then sit down with me and discuss each of these songs. It's been really fun. It's been a blast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
We will do another one together. Absolutely. Not only music tracks, but we need to do another game together. And our next one should be Tomba. This is just kind of a side
Sure.
quest, like we said. To everyone out there, I'm going to end this episode with the ending theme to Super Turrican 2 titled Farewell. And on that note, farewell to all of you. We've been Superannuated Starman.